All right, let's dive deep into one of America's most intriguing families,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
Kennedys,
Yeah.
and specifically their patriarch, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. But we're going beyond the usual headlines, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We're looking at him through a really fascinating lens. The Enneagram,
Hmm.
Type 3, the Achiever,
Interesting.
with a special focus on the social subtype. Now, you know the Kennedys. They're like this captivating mix of ambition and tragedy.
Almost like a modern day Shakespearean drama.
Exactly. And to understand Joe Kennedy, you got to grasp this social 3 personality. They're driven, relentless.
Oh, yeah.
They crave success, prestige, that outward validation from the world.
And Kennedy's life really is a perfect example of that. I mean, think about it. He
Yeah.
was an Irish Catholic in a time of serious social barriers. Yet he claws his way to the top of Wall Street, dips his toes in Hollywood, even becomes ambassador to the UK.
He was like a one-man wrecking crew against those societal norms.
Right.
But it wasn't just about breaking barriers, was it? I mean, there's that whole thing with the merchandise mart.
Right.
That massive symbol of his success in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, did he really need the biggest building in the U.S. just to, make money?
That's the Social 3 internal propaganda department
No.
at work. It's not enough to be powerful. You have to be seen as powerful.
Okay, so he craved that outward validation,
Yeah.
but Kennedy wasn't just brute ambition.
No?
He was strategic, a social chameleon.
Hmm.
Wall Street, Hollywood, international diplomacy, he navigated it all, built alliances with people like FDR.
Right.
But was it all just personal gain?
Well, with the Social 3, it often is about using those relationships to climb the ladder. But here's the thing. He had these powerful connections, yet he never went for the presidency himself,
Oh, that's true.
despite obvious political aspirations.
So he was more of a behind-the-scenes player, pulling strings, maybe even grooming others to achieve what he couldn't,
Possibly.
like setting up his son, JFK, for the presidency.
That's a classic Social 3 move.
Wow.
Projecting your ambitions onto others. It's not just personal achievement, it's the success of those they control, almost like it reflects their own power.
But Kennedy had his setbacks, right?
For sure.
Like those accusations of Nazi sympathies effectively ended his own White House dreams. Did that fuel his drive to see his sons reach those heights?
That's a fascinating question.
It is.
And this brings us to another key Social 3 trait. Vanity.
Right.
Kennedy's wealth wasn't just security, it was a way to project power,
Oh, I see.
influence. And this need for display, it extended to his family almost like their success was another trophy for him.
And let's not forget his personal life.
Right.
Those high-profile affairs, especially with Hollywood stars,
Yeah.
it seems like another way of seeking validation.
Almost like collecting conquests. Yeah.
It's like a complex picture, isn't it?
Absolutely.
This drive for success, validation, control,
Yeah.
all while projecting this carefully crafted image of power.
Uh-huh.
It makes you wonder, what was the true cost of all that ambition?
That's a question we'll explore as we dive deeper into Joseph P. Kennedy Sr.'s life and legacy. Did his ambition help or hurt his family in the end? What were the trade-offs he made chasing that recognition?
And what can we learn from his story? Is it a cautionary tale or just a man seizing every opportunity to climb to the top?
We'll find out as we continue our deep dive.
Absolutely.
It's funny you mentioned the cost of ambition because it really is something historians still debate.
Yeah.
The Kennedys, they became this like American royalty,
Right.
embodying the American dream.
Yeah.
Yet their story is full of tragedy, assassinations, scandals, personal struggles.
It makes you wonder if all that pressure to succeed, to live up to the Kennedy name, played a role in those tragedies.
It's possible.
And we know Joe Kennedy was a very demanding father, pushing his children relentlessly.
It's a common track for the Social 3. They often measure their worth and everyone else's by external achievements.
Right.
For Kennedy, it wasn't enough that he succeeded. His children had to embody that success too. Like they were carrying his legacy forward.
And that environment he created,
Yeah.
that constant competition between the siblings.
Oh, absolutely.
It must have been intense.
Definitely.
Were they striving for their own ambitions or just trying to win their father's approval?
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
But that pressure cooker, it raises an interesting question.
What's that?
Was Kennedy's ambition ultimately a blessing or a curse for his family? Did it push them to greatness or set them up for impossible expectations and heartbreak?
It's almost like a Greek tragedy, isn't it?
Right.
This powerful patriarch shaping his children's destinies, maybe even sacrificing their happiness for the family name.
And don't forget, we're talking about a time when Irish Catholics faced so much prejudice.
Sure.
His climb wasn't just personal gain. It was about defying those societal norms,
Yeah.
proving he and his family deserved a seat at the table.
So his ambition, even if flawed, was maybe also fueled by a desire to break through barriers, to create opportunities for his children that he never had.
That's what's so complex about his story.
There's defiance there.
Right.
The desire to rewrite the rules of a society that had excluded people like him.
Yeah.
But there's also that darker side to that ambition, a need for control, for external validation that maybe came at the expense of real connection and individual fulfillment.
Okay. But let's shift gears for a second.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about his drive for success and influence.
Yeah.
But Kennedy was also known for his, let's say, shrewd business tactics.
Right.
Some might even say ruthless. How does that fit into the social 3 profile?
Well, remember, the social 3 is driven by a need to win, to be seen as the best.
Yeah.
This can manifest as cutthroat competitiveness, a willingness to do whatever it takes to come out on top.
Right.
And in the world of business, where the stakes are so high, that drive can lead to some morally ambiguous decisions.
There are those rumors about his stock manipulations during the Wall Street crash.
Yep.
Profiting from the misfortune of others.
Did he ever show remorse for those actions? Or was it all justified in his mind because of his pursuit of success?
That's the thing with the social 3.
Yeah.
They're so focused on the goal, on winning the game, that they can lose sight of the bigger picture. The ethical implications.
Right.
It's not that they're inherently bad people, but that drive for success can sometimes eclipse other considerations.
So it's like they have blinders on, focused on the prize, to the point where they might not even see the casualties along the way.
That's a good way to put it. And this ties into another interesting aspect of Kennedy's life. His ability to compartmentalize.
Right.
He built this image of a devoted family man,
Yeah.
while at the same time engaging in those high-profile affairs.
It's almost like two different people.
Right.
Was it hypocrisy or just a way to manage those different parts of his life without letting them conflict?
Maybe it's that social 3 need to control the narrative to present the image they want the world to see, even if it doesn't quite match reality.
So they're shaping the perception of themselves.
Wow.
They're masters of image management, carefully curating their public persona. It's not necessarily about lying, but about shaping the perception to fit the story they want to tell.
It's like they're living multiple lives,
In a way, yeah.
playing different roles depending on the audience.
Right.
That duality must have been exhausting,
I would imagine so.
constantly managing those different personas.
It raises questions about authenticity.
Yeah.
Was there a genuine Joe Kennedy beneath all those carefully constructed facades? Or did he become so consumed by projecting a certain image that he lost sight of who he truly was?
And that brings us back to the question of cost.
Yeah.
Did all this maneuvering, this relentless pursuit of success and validation, ultimately leave him feeling fulfilled? Or was there a sense of emptiness beneath it all?
It's the paradox of the social 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
They achieve great things, amass wealth and power,
Right.
yet that external validation often doesn't satisfy the deeper longing for real connection and inner peace.
It's like they're chasing a mirage, forever seeking something that's just out of reach.
Right.
So what can we learn from this? Should we just avoid ambition altogether, reject the pursuit of success?
Not necessarily.
Yeah,
Ambition, when channeled well, can be a powerful force for good.
I see.
But Kennedy's life reminds us that it's about finding that balance,
Right.
understanding the motivations behind our drive, and making sure our pursuit of external validation doesn't come at the expense of our integrity, our relationships, or our own well-being.
It's like that saying, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Exactly.
Maybe true success is about finding fulfillment in the process,
Yeah.
in the connections we make, the impact we have, rather than just focusing on the end goal.
And that's a message that resonates today more than ever. In a world obsessed with social media, with projecting the perfect image,
Right.
it's easy to fall into that trap of seeking external validation at the expense of genuine connection.
So how do we navigate this then? How do we balance ambition with integrity, success with fulfillment? Is there a way to harness that social 3 drive without falling into its potential pitfalls?
That's a question we'll explore as we continue our deep dive into the life and legacy of Joseph P. Kennedy Sr.
Oh.
Stay tuned as we unpack the later years of his life, the triumphs and tragedies,
Okay.
and ultimately the lasting impact he had on his family and the world.
It's striking how, even with all his accomplishments, Kennedy's later years were marked by such tragedy.
Yeah.
Losing his sons, John and Robert, to assassination, it must have been devastating.
Absolutely, almost Shakespearean in a way, right?
Yeah.
This patriarch who built this empire only to see it crumble with these unimaginable losses.
Some biographers even speculate that those events, really sent him into a reclusive state.
It's interesting, isn't it, considering that outward focus of the social three?
Right. You'd think they'd want the spotlight, even in grief.
Yeah.
So was he truly heartbroken, or was it more about losing that legacy he'd so carefully crafted?
It's hard to know for sure, but it definitely makes us think about the social three in a new light.
Yeah.
Maybe those personal tragedies forced him to look inward,
Yeah.
to really confront the meaning of success and fulfillment.
So maybe even for someone so outwardly focused, there's a limit to how much external validation can actually fulfill us.
It's possible.
It's like those losses expose the hollowness of just chasing worldly achievements.
It adds a whole other layer to his story, doesn't it?
Definitely.
It's a reminder that even the most driven people are still human, vulnerable to the same pain and heartbreak as everyone else.
It really makes you wonder if he ever had any regrets, about the pressure he put on his kids, the sacrifices he demanded in the name of ambition.
It's a question that probably haunted him, but we'll never know for sure.
Right.
But it highlights something important about the social three. Their need for control can sometimes blind them to the needs and desires of those around them.
They get so focused on shaping the world to fit their vision, they might miss the burdens they're placing on others.
Exactly. And for Kennedy, that control went beyond his family.
Oh, right.
Don't forget his influence on politics.
Shaping elections, pulling strings behind the scenes.
He really was a master manipulator.
He understood how power worked and used it to push his own agenda.
Remember, the social three is often drawn to influence, not for the power itself, but to shape things, leave their mark.
And he certainly left a mark. The Kennedy name is practically synonymous with American politics.
It's a legacy that still fascinates us, doesn't it?
It does.
And I think part of that is the complexity of his character.
Mm-hmm.
He represents both the good and the bad of the American dream,
Yeah.
A reminder that success can come with a heavy price.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one takeaway you want our listeners to really think about? What can we learn from all of this? The good and the bad of Joseph P. Kennedy Sr.
I think the biggest lesson here is that chasing success should never mean sacrificing your integrity or your humanity.
It's about finding that balance between ambition and compassion.
Exactly.
Reaching for excellence, but also recognizing the worth of ourselves and everyone around us.
It's about knowing why we're driven and making sure that need for validation doesn't make us blind to the things that truly matter. Real connection, meaningful relationships.
That kind of inner peace that goes beyond fame and fortune.
Well said. Joe Kennedy's life, for all its ups and downs, offers a powerful lesson about what it means to be human.
It reminds us that success is a complicated thing.
And that real fulfillment often lies in the journey, not just the destination.
Great point. So let's all keep those lessons in mind as we figure out our own paths, striving for the best while also taking care of ourselves and the people we love.
I like that.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the life and legacy of Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.